thing about the jazz music that it started from piano playing. They played more of it because people didn't have enough money to hire a band, or there wasn't enough musicians, and they didn't care anyway because they were getting high having a good time. You know what I mean? So anyway, what I'm trying to get to is that the piano players played for all the entertainment, maybe but not even trumpet players. But the main thing they played, they wanted to play the people to dance because they wanted what they call boogie woogie. Hey man, come on, let's go. So I'm going to play some of the first music with jazz music that piano players played. It's called boogie woogie. Yeah, man, get the piano players on the stage, man.
presume you feel exactly everything I feel. I uncover clues with every word you speak. I don't assume your passion is a play for everyone to see. Feel your presence all around me. I long to know more, page after page. You're the book I can't put down. I don't presume you feel exactly everything I feel. I uncover clues with every word you speak. I don't assume your passion is a play for everyone to see. I don't presume you feel exactly everything I feel. I uncover clues with every word you speak. I don't assume your passion is a play for everyone to see. I live to breathe you, I touch to feel you. I feel your presence all around me. I long to know you more, page after page. You're the book I can't put down. Soft guitar when it feels like my sticky love. Sun's gone down, stars shine bright in the west. Night is still, there's a
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Houston Oasis. It's really great to see you. I'm actually kind of overwhelmed by this new welcome. Thank you for joining us. I don't know, but some creative artists went to work there. So welcome to Houston Oasis. We are a secular community, an alternative to faith-based community. We have 5 core values. I think they're all posted outside. But one of the ones that I wanted to bring up this morning is meaning comes from making a difference. And I think that is going to be something to keep in mind as we're listening to our main talk in a little bit. We're going to get started with a couple of songs, though, and I'm actually really excited. This is my favorite people, T.C. Smythe. Smythe and Taylor. TC actually used to be the music director for Houston Oasis until she retired and went to live in Colorado. But Smythe and Taylor formed in 1999 when a friend asked TC if she could sub for him in a coffee shop gig. So she only knew a handful of songs. I think she knows a handful more nowadays. I guess the rest is history. You can read it in today's pamphlet, but I'm really excited to have you both in town and playing for us today. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Verena. Take it up. Ain't got no care in this world. Ain't got no care in this world. There might have been some gray, but that was yesterday. Ain't got no care in this world. Won't be no trace when I'm gone. Won't be no trace when I'm gone. No trace when I'm gone. Just a piece of this old song. Won't be no trace when I'm gone. Don't roll no stone over me. Don't roll no stone over me. Let me travel once again, scattered by the wind. Don't roll no stone over me. say no prayer over me. Don't say no prayer over me. 'Cause if he's up there in the blue, he's got better things to do. Don't say no prayer over me. The world will continue to spin. The world will continue to spin. And if you think it won't, then you'd better think again. The world will continue to spin. I got no more left to say. Thank you.
Sermon around it, so I'm not sure what I did wrong, but well, I ran across Jesus Christ today, glancing through a window pane. He was nursing a cup of coffee at Jack's on 3rd and Main. A fogged up diner window was all there was to keep the cold away. Well, I sat down at his table. I could tell he had some things to say. I said, I thought you rose to something better when they nailed you to that pine. He said, that's just a little parlor trick to keep the flock in line. But I thought I'd better try again, 'cause this world's way out of whack, and there's a bunch of people speaking for me who are really off the track. 'Cause heaven's not the great beyond, you can be there every day. Could be talking to some stranger in some coffee shop cafe. And hell is not some place below, it's more a state of mind. It's a sad or lost or wasted day, or a friend you've left behind. It's a sad or lost or wasted day, or a friend you've left behind. he said, you know those 1-800 righteous folks who've declared themselves a saint? Somebody tells you how smart they are, it's a sure sign that they ain't. But claim a hotline straight to glory land, to the Lord and all his men. But if they went pounding on the pearly gates, well, they ain't getting in. He said, you know, religion, it is a perfect game. It's like rolling out all sevens, 'cause people trade their Sunday money to buy their piece of heaven. And you can promise folks eternity, and who knows if you've lied, nobody's gonna sue you when they're gone, if there ain't no other side. 'Cause heaven's not the great beyond, you can be there every day. Could be talking to some stranger in some coffee shop cafe. And hell is not some place below, it's more a state of mind. It's a sad or lost or wasted day, or a friend you've left behind. It's a sad or lost or wasted day, or a friend you've left behind. I left a $5 there on the table, paying for his brew. Well, he died for me all those years ago, It was the least that I could do. The Son of God or just some homeless guy?
Well, I guess I'll never know. He just crunched on down the boulevard into the drifting snow.
Hey man, what's the secret? I yelled as he faded from my view. He said, treat a stranger like a friend, my friend. Just do what you can do. And live your life full every day.
One more thing before I fly. If you wanna get to heaven, don't wait until you die. 'Cause heaven's not the great beyond. You can be there every day. Could be talking to some stranger in some coffee shop cafe. And hell is not some place below. It's more a state of mind. It's a sad or lost or wasted day, or a friend you left behind. It's a sad or lost or wasted day, or a friend you left behind.
Thank you.
What an absolute treat. So glad you guys are here. One thing I wanted to ask, for asking for a friend, is there a place we can buy your music? Any?
If there is a streaming service out there, we're on it. We're on Spotify, iTunes. We have our own website, smythandtaylor.com. We have a YouTube channel. We have a Facebook page. Just Google Smythe and Taylor. You'll find us.
All right, we can find you.
Okay.
Really loved that last song. It had so many things in it. Treat a stranger like a friend, and yeah. Okay, thank you so much. What we're going to do next is we're going to go into our main talk. It's going to be by Kevin Bolling, supporting the next generation. Kevin is the executive director of the Secular Student Alliance, and recently served as the Director of Philanthropy at the Gay Men's Chorus of Los Angeles, a major arts advocacy organization whose youth outreach work has moved thousands of hearts and minds across the U.S. towards embracing LGBTQ equality, and certainly very interested in learning more about the Secular Student Alliance. I know Houston Oasis does support the Secular Student Alliance and participate in an annual contest that they have for money to scholarships towards their studies. And so we're always really, really excited about the work that it does, and really excited about welcoming Kevin to tell us more about supporting the next generation.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. There's sort of coming out of COVID, there's lots of local sort of humanist, secular, atheist groups that are sort of really sort of coming back into their own. And so it's Houston Oasis, I think, has always been one that has been out there and been in the forefront, and is, I think nationally is also well known. So it's really fun to be here. I started my trip in Canyon, Texas. So we had West Texas A&M, and we have, if you're not familiar, the president, our student group and the gay group on campus, Spectrum, we're holding a drag show as a fundraiser for the Trevor Project, which does sort of has a hotline for LGBT suicide prevention. And they got it approved on the campus and everything, jumped through all the hoops, did everything right. And 11 days before that, the president sent an email out to every student, every faculty, and every staff member, multiple times listing his religious beliefs on why he was canceling the show. And so drag is currently still banned on campus, and our students are suing the president personally. So Andrew Seidel and I were out there to talk about that and talk about how wrong he was. And also just talking about Christian nationalism. And so it was an interesting day in Canyon, but it was really good. And so Andrew's always a good friend, and it was great to be sort of out there with them. But I reached out to Will and Alexis and said, hey, I'm going to be in the area, and so I'm really happy that they invited me to talk today. So my background is working with students. And I have a master's in education and student personnel services. I've worked at college universities. And so I said, I think today's political environment and what we're finding, especially in the state of public education, can be a bit depressing and frustrating. But working with students, I really see sort of that hope and that joy, and I'm very hopeful about the future because I see what's coming up. And so one, I want to share a little bit about that with you today, and sort of go through. I'll be talking a little bit more generally, but we'll have a Q&A, so if there's specific things you really want to hone into or examples that you have, I'm happy to go into those. But just covering a little bit today, we're going to talk about a little bit about the mindset of this upcoming generation, sort of the changing world on college campuses, and I think there's a lot of things that we see in the news that are happening, and obviously it's happening pretty quick and just in public education in general. Sort of really engaging in the next generation. When I talk, obviously I work with a lot of students, but a lot of what, in my generalizations, I'll be talking about more about new people and younger people, so you can sort of frame a little bit in that. But things you can do, and then again, answering any questions that you might have. So, and we can get into this as specific as you want, or sort of in that area as well. So the Secular Student Alliance, we are the only national organization, secular organization, that's dedicated to working with atheist, humanist, and non-theist students. So we do have students who are religious, who are our members, because they can't have those conversations in their religious communities. So our students are more than happy to have debate about religion with them. And while we're working with students, we're working with the future leaders of the secular movement. And we're also working with future leaders who are going to have secular values in their communities. So Sarah is one of our former students. She was on our board of directors. She is now running for a state representative in Florida. So many of our students have done internships and have been staff at American Atheists, at FFRF, at American Humanist Association. So we really sort of do see our students sort of continue on, and we're really proud about that, and the continued sort of impact that they're going to have. So the Secular Student Alliance, so it was founded in 2000. We did our 21 anniversary during COVID, which really sort of sucked. We were like, finally legal. But we have chapters all across the United States. This is a bit what we looked at before COVID. And like many organizations, we're in the process of coming back and really growing, and we've really seen that sort of growth this year. And we work with primarily in colleges and universities. We have high schools. We've always had high school chapters. We started, and we're getting younger and younger. So, so anywhere there's a student, or a young person, we're gonna reach out. We're gonna provide services to them. We're also part of the larger secular movement, obviously. And so we work with a variety of the large national organizations, as well as with local organizations. And as they were sharing, sort of Houston Oasis is part of our scholarship program that we do every spring. You all sponsor a scholarship for a student. We send you those applications, you select that person, and it goes in. We did collectively, including you, we did 33 scholarships this year and about $42,000 that we gave to students. So thank you for your participation. It's a wonderful way to help support students. And through that, we also, as we do with sort of the national organizations, we want, as students are graduating from us and going on into their lives, we want them to continue to get involved. So whether it's a local group like Houston Oasis, or Metroplex Atheist, or FACT over in San Antonio, we want our students to get involved in local groups in their communities and still have that community, as well as with the national organizations. So we have great partnerships with the national organizations, and Will, from being his role as American Atheist, many a times we have sat at a conference or two. And just great. The lawyers at FFRF are fantastic with us. So we have really good relationships, and we appreciate being part of that larger movement. So in the United States, we're sort of we're continuing to see sort of the continued growth of non-religious people. It wasn't that long ago that is 1 in 5 people in the U.S. were non-religious, then 1 in 4, and now we're almost like 1 in 3, just general U.S. of identifying as non-religious. For young people, it's almost 50% of young people are non-religious. So we look at Gen Z. So it's been a steady growth. During COVID, we actually took a dip. students went back to their religious families and their religious households, and we actually saw the first time in a long time that young people actually dipped back down because they were, my interpretation, forced to start going back to their religious services. But right now, 48.5% of young people are non-religious. And there's obviously a large spectrum of what that includes. But if the statistics keep going, the next presidential election, over 50% of young people will be non-religious. We will have flipped and now be in the majority. So as I mentioned, we're mostly in college and universities. So this is pre-COVID, but Bailey started our first middle school chapter. So Bailey is 16 now. She's written 3 books. She developed her own game. I mean, Bailey's like incredible, and she's like adorably cute, and their whole family is just phenomenal. And we're soon, actually, once I get home, the mailings just got delivered to our office. So we're announcing our first 3 elementary school chapters, with probably 6 more on the way soon. So again, anywhere where there's students, anywhere there's young people, we're going to make sure that we're reaching out, providing whatever services that we can to help them. So let's talk about the next generation. So, and this is primarily, we're talking about Gen Z, but really the next generation of students that are coming up. So in college and universities, every year Beloit College does the student mindset. So what are some significant things that have taken place as they're growing up that are going to impact the way that they see the world? And so this is looking at the class of 2025, so not that far down the road that they'll be graduating. So the U.S. has always been at war since they've been alive. We've always had an American Taliban. The phrase, the Patriot Act, and sort of our increased surveillance has always been around. Donald Trump has always been a politician. So as a Democrat, an independent, and now as a Republican, of course. Bill has always been Hillary's aging husband. Every 4 years, their big question is, why do we do the Electoral College? There's Enron has never been around. Chernobyl has never produced any electricity. Cloning is very mundane laboratory procedure. Autism has always erroneously been linked to vaccines. I had to change this one this morning because we said, the abortion pill has always been available in the U.S. So we've sort of almost taken a step backwards with that one now. If you see something and say something has always been a phrase that's been around since they've been alive. Sandy Hook was their Columbine. They're also the first generation that knows that they can be shot in school and have bulletproof backpacks and those sorts of things. On a very flip side, you've always been able to get a cafe latte in the Forbidden City in Beijing. Many of us probably remember the large set of books that were in the house for Encyclopedia Britannica with Wikipedia that's all at their fingertips on their phones. So there's always been Survivor. Snowboarding has always been an Olympic sport. Clay Aikman has always been calling the plays from the press booth. And things like flyovers and honor guards and God Bless America have always been at sporting events to promote patriotism. Of course, ketchup has always come in green. Slime has always been pink. And they will argue endlessly with their parents about what the first episode of Star Wars was. They have probably never heard the dial tone. They have lived in a floppy-less world. The Mars Odyssey has always been checking out the water supply on Mars for future visits. And of course now, we're even potentially closer to Mars exploration. So one of my neighbors actually is on NASA and actually runs the little helicopter on Mars. They've always had the nanny cam to check in on the babysitter. Always used their fingerprint for identification. eHarmony has always been using its algorithm to promote love. The big four to them are not the automakers, but Google, Apple, and now it's Meta and Amazon. They do not care about email. So Snapchat was the thing, like so yesterday, because it's now about TikTok. Phones have always been used to take pictures. They've always had smartwatches. For them, they're about as non-judgmental about sexual orientation as their parents were about smoking pot. And about 2/3 of this generation, only 2/3 say that they're exclusively heterosexual. So this generation, about nearly half of this generation, is composed of people of color. So they've witnessed the 2 African-American secretaries of state, the election of their first black presidents, the Black Lives Matter movements, and of course, Disney's first black princess. And for this generation, by their sophomore year, which is next year, this generation is going to be 1/4 of the US population. So there have been some things that are obviously a little bit more current that I think it'll be interesting to see the way that it has the impact. Corona was huge for this generation. They were just sort of coming into their own, and it's where you go to college and you do all that stuff that sort of forms how you're going to be the rest of your life, and that was really put on hold. And so we've really been looking at students who, like our first in-person conference was last summer in Missouri, and we worked with students who had never booked a plane ticket, and who they've never done that. They've gone on family vacations, but that was when they were younger, and the family did all that, but like on their own sort of stuff. So they've also been like for almost 3 years were like on Zoom, even when they were back on campus last year, except for, Texas was just like, screw Corona. But most colleges were like, you were allowed back on campus, but you still had to be in your residence hall room. So you went and got your food and went back to your residence hall room. You were on Zoom to do your classes virtually while you were still on campus. Texas was not that case. So like group dynamics and how to run a meeting and how to plan an event and like all those leadership things that you build in college, we've got 3 years that we're working. So our students right now, I would say bless their hearts, are making a lot of the mistakes because they didn't have that sort of mentoring, and so we're having a interesting and fun time working through this with them. But I think we're going to continue to see the way that this really has changed some of the dynamics of group interaction and personal interaction that we're just beginning to see the start of. This generation also right now, obviously you have the Don't Say Gay bill, you have the really anti-race curriculum, and we really saw last year, especially in Florida, that this is designed to say shut up and hide. Let's be real. And for young people, that's really what it did. Are we seeing that being different this upcoming year? Yes, and we're very happy about that, and students are becoming more politically active and more engaged and more out there, which we really are supporting and appreciate, especially after the last year. But we still, of course, have the parent students' rights, which are not. They're just about censorship. We have the book bans, again, which are just about censorship. And we sort of have right now this fight against public education. And really, Republicans intentionally, and they've said this themselves, so it's not like I'm making this up. This is in writing, and they say this publicly. They're trying to destroy public education. And that is definitely impacting the students that we're working with and what we're doing. And West Texas is a great example of that and what we just where we just were in doing that. And I know Texas has fortunately had several votes on vouchers that have failed, which is fantastic because there's no study anywhere that shows they're good for public schools nor the private schools. Like the results are just horrible all the way across the books. So I'm not going in a lot of generation stuff, but just in case there's any questions, so Gen Z is really those who were born after 95. And so there really is a lot of that is the students who are in college and less now. So why are they sort of important? So millennials in general, so 80 million in the United States. They're the most ethnically and racially diverse generation in the United States, in our country's history. So, and of course, I think you all know they grew up alongside technology and really with social media and how that impacts. Why do they matter? So in just a few short years, by 2030, they will be 75% of the workforce. I think and part of the goals that were brought up, the values that were brought up today, they really do want to make a difference. And so having that meaning and that matter to them is super, super, super important. It's hard not to talk about this generation without talking about technology, and that picture, that phone is so old. But technoholics, so typically on 5 different screens, it's really integrated into their lives. Unlike many of sort of us who started out with social media and put everything on there, they are all about being private and temporary. And so if you look at a lot of the new social media platforms, it's not permanent. They realize that perhaps that's not always a good thing. But they're also talking about real-time connection. They can video chat with anyone in the world instantaneously and do it as a group. And so they're very much creators and very much collaborators. So this instant communication anywhere is just opened up a whole new world for them. And that's why we find a lot of young people finding about non-religion and atheist communities and humanist communities and things like Houston Oasis on the internet, because it's sort of really opened up. Getting into, so with the secular student alliance, really getting into like who our students are and sort of what they're interested in. We did a survey because we want to know. We want to know more about our students and what we're sort of. And so for us, it's really, and again, there's that wide range of what it is to be non-religious or nuns. And so really the students who really hone into our organization and really local secular groups oftentimes are I identify as an atheist. And that's one of my primary identifiers. So we sort of asked them, how do you identify? So, what sort of category? You see, they're sort of all over the place. And for those of you quick on math, you're going to realize that is way over 100%. So because we didn't limit it, intentionally we didn't limit it to one identifier, because like most things, the younger generation isn't so subscribed to labels. So, and the same thing for the LGBT community, like I don't identify as gay, I don't identify as like, I'm just like, this is just who I am. So the labels are going more and more away, and so we've had conversations with American humanists and American atheists and say, if especially for local youth who are like, no, this is what we are, and like, okay, you're gonna lose new people. Because those labels aren't so much as important. It's about what you're doing, and it's about the impact that you're having. And so it's in who you're including, and those sorts of things. So, and the most common category that people identify with, obviously atheism was up there, it's well known, it's easily recognizable, but it was actually 4 different ones. So most of our students picked 4 identifiers. So they may be an atheist because they don't believe in God, they may be a humanist because of their values, they may be secular because they believe in the separation of church and state. So it's multiple identifiers that they're pulling into their lives. So when you're talking about new people, just know that they're coming probably from this from a lot of different angles, which gives you a lot of different ways to connect with them. Like, that's good stuff. So yeah, those hard, rigid things are less there, and that makes it makes the word a little bit more complicated, but it also opens up a lot of doors for you to be able to make connections. So we also looked at, like, are we just like taking atheists and now putting them in atheist groups? And the answer is clearly no. 83% of our students come from a religious family. So we have 13% which come from a non-religious household. Then clearly we got the Christians. And then these are your Mormons. So they're like, we're not Christian, damn it, we're Mormon. So that just happened to be, that's how they group themselves. But so we know that most of the students we work with are coming from religious communities and religious households, and mostly while they're in college, they're deconverting. And that looks like many different things for them. So politics is obviously also important. So we know that about 56% of atheists are liberal. A vast majority support the government helping people. Abortion should be legal. Accepting of homosexuality, just in general. And then wanting to protect the environment. The one I always love is like 83% think that right and wrong depends on the situation. like those subscribe things like this is what the Bible says and this is right and wrong, most students are like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. So they're taking it, they're allowing their experiences to come in and what the community is saying to sort of dictate to them those sort of terms. And really sort of challenging a lot of the stuff that they've seen in the past and going, no, you know, it's just good to have, like, be friendly to people and bring people in, even if we have different backgrounds. For the Democratic Party, about 20 years ago, 1 in 10 of Democratic voters were religiously unaffiliated. So that's about 1 in 3 today. For Republicans, it's about 15%, so not giving up hope, but Texas Republicans are probably a little different, I'm just saying. So we sort of asked our students, like, what's your political identity? Like, where do you fall on the spectrum? And this is how they self-ranked. So we clearly, much sort of the progressive, which was what they would probably call themselves, but sort of liberal values and those sorts of things. So that's really, we allow the students to really take up the causes they want to pursue their activism and their passions. And so politically, this is a bit where they fall. We also do have conservative students, and we embrace them fully. And we want them to feel like they have a home and they have a community and are full members and participatory with us as well. So as I said, most of the community that we work with, the largest portion of that is with college university students. We also, of course, have very active high school students, high school chapters. And the college campus has been changing a lot and rapidly over really the last decade. So we know, student organizations on campus, student clubs, student groups. So college campuses are sort of a hotbed for faith-based ministries. So your largest 4 Navigators, Campus Crusade for Christ, Newton, and I always forget, I do my Mitt Romney and I always forget the 4th one. But their annual budget combined, and granted people have to they don't have to file the taxes. But it's about $1 billion a year. That's with a B. $1 billion a year that they're dumping into not, proselytizing to students. So they're obviously doing a lot, because they are. And on some campuses, there may be 120 religious groups, and there's 1 secular student alliance. And so when I was at West Texas A&M, directly across from the university is campus ministry, church, campus ministry, campus student center, religious, Wesleyan Center. Next to the Wesleyan Center, they had a really nice new building that's a huge cafe that was Hope plus something else. I looked at that and I go, yeah, that's religious. And so if you're part of the Wesleyan Center, you get free parking, like right in the middle of campus. So they're really using that to their benefits and doing those. So I did happen to put publicity on all the cars in the Wesleyan parking lot. And we had some students show up, and they were very nice and asked some questions, so we're glad to have them there. So this is sort of like our students, and we still have students, and I hear it from adults all the time, but we still have students like, I thought I was the only one on campus. And we're like, you're so not. But we're getting that message out more and more and more. So again, so pre-COVID, 12 of the largest campus ministries got together because they noticed this trend. And they did their own study. So about 70% of Christian students, their first year of college, were leaving the religion. They didn't define what that was. My guess it's they stopped going to service or meetings or those sorts of things. And so they dumped literally millions of dollars into Campus Link. So with the intent purpose of rejuvenating God's presence on college campuses. And what they did was they identified high school students, found out where they were going to college, and then started sending them information on the campus ministries that were already with the college that they were attending. So if you think about the infrastructure of that, but then they realized that the first 72 hours that a student was on campus, so not when classes started, but when you got there and started moving in, the first 72 hours is where you're going to start forming your own patterns. So they sent emails to students saying, hey, so before classes start, we're having a social, we're having a pizza party, we're having a da-da-da. Come, and they would send other students out to go and take them to that because they knew that was the crucial time. So I will say they have spent a lot of money, continue to spend a lot of money. And while they had made some improvements, this is not working. I'm pleased to say. They're still active, but it's not working as well as they wanted. And we saw within schools, especially with public education, we saw Project Blitz and a lot of the "In God We Trust" posters in schools and those sorts of things. And this is really, we're on Project Blitz 3.0 now. And that's really where you see the school vouchers and the book bans and all these current things that we're seeing is the complete building of Project Blitz and when it started. And they're becoming more and more organized, but really organized, actively proselytizing, and extremely well-funded. And so that's a bit what we're up against, especially in education, and then just the legislative bill mills that are coming out now. And it's, Florida starts the Don't Say Gay bill, and Missouri's got to top it, and then Texas goes, hold my beer, hold my Bud Light. So it really is seeing who can up who on how bad we can make things and how far sort of just Christian nationalists we can go. So a little bit more in sort of into our students. So this is one of our previous conferences at Ohio State University. So a little bit our demographics of our students. So and the leadership and the membership are all statistically about the same. So 50% male, 50% female. So we're going to be sort of in a nice even stride. About 40% of our students right now identify as people of color or mixed race, as they self-identify. About 25% identify as gay, lesbian, or bisexual, with another 5% as trans or gender nonconforming. So I always say, think about your groups, and I ask local groups and the national orgs, think about your membership, because this is what's coming up, and are you ready for them? So there are students, obviously, as far as the interests, separation of church and state is super important to them. It's probably one of the unifying elements of all of our students, and obviously something that they're super active in. I mentioned West Texas. They're suing the president of the university there. We have Luke, who's a high school student in Colorado, who is state championship level golf. Went to a golf tournament. The religious school comes over, as there's 120 students gathered there, come over the loudspeaker system on the golf course and says, everyone take off your hats, bow your heads, we're going to pray. They were going to do that again at the state championship, and Luke and his father called the Colorado High School Association was like, hey. And at first they were going, no, we're just going to allow it. Luke can just leave. And Luke was like, no. And so Luke, his efforts got that stopped, so that did not happen a second time. There are students in Texas are very active, so lots of good stuff going on as well. And we've had students in Missouri who have been to the state capitol and testified against some of the bills, the anti-trans bills and anti-LGBT student bills that are going through. Environment is obviously important to our students, and the number of youth activist environmentalism are just shamefully activist, and I love them for it. Racial justice is obviously important. LGBT rights, obviously important to our students. And then making sure that women's reproductive health is protected. We have students in New York and at San Antonio who have made sure, have protested and made sure that the student health centers on campuses are providing contraceptives and providing information and health care for reproductive health. So they're actively campaigning and fighting against that. And of course, they want to make sure that their campuses are safe places. Our students are also heavily involved in voter registration and getting out the vote. And so Sean Rivera was one of our top student leaders, was on our advisory council, and has moved on in Texas, in the San Antonio and Austin area, to move on Texas and getting out the vote and those sorts of things. We also do fun stuff. So this is a great picture, and again, but it's about experiential and giving back and community service. So this is our first secular spring break, where we were in Puerto Rico rebuilding roofs after Hurricane Maria. So this upcoming year, we're actually going to be this on the far end is Jazz, I was like, I'm not going to remember her name, is Jazz, who's from the Houston area and volunteered to help rebuilding for 2 years, doing rebuilding disaster recovery after the hurricane here. But this upcoming year we're in Florida after Hurricane Ian, but it's a group of students spending their spring break. We specialize in disaster recovery with one of the nonprofits that we work with. That is, and many of the groups that do this are religious based groups, and there's prayer at the beginning of the day, and this is not. And so our students are having a great time and doing some really good work. The woman she was right next to me on my bunk when we did this. She was a PE teacher for 42 years. And she was like, no guff. She was like, who are you? And oh, this is what I'm doing. She's like, who are these people you're with? And I was like, well, this is what we're with. She was like, I love you're doing that. She was fun. But so a bit of the mindset, a bit about what they're interested in politically, a bit about their background. And again, I always ask, like, are you ready? Because this is what's coming up. What we want is we want there to be connection. We want when the students who are graduating from the Secular Student Alliance, we want them to get involved with local groups. And I always ask, why do you want younger people? And just sort of in general, like why do you want younger or new people? So millennials, they're the generation that grew up teaching themselves stuff. So especially this upcoming generation, they're not stuck like in the rigid organizations like we've been doing this for 50 years. They don't care. Like the world is changing so fast and they're experiencing new things, and AI is just the beginning of that. But you may see them as feeling entitled, and like it can be frustrating, and I get that. But they're just looking like, is there a different way to do that? And part of if you're working with new people or in leadership, and they start like, hey, why do you do that? They're literally just asking because they want to know the answer. It's easy, trust me, it's easy to get defensive. But for new people, they just like, why do we do it that way? Well, what about? And they're really just throwing out the ideas, and I just encourage you to be open to that. And that's the great way to open the door. Well, like, no, we don't do that, but can you help us? Great way to get a young person or a new person involved. Because we want them to join. Like, we want them to build community. We want them to be part of this. So what can you do? So I'm going to go sort of briefly talking about some welcome and inclusive talk. Intergenerational and separate spaces, active projects, like our students are super experiential, and sort of the benefit that your group has to offer. So, and I would say there's nothing wrong with liking the way your group is right now. And I come with the assumption, being invited here, that you want to be attractive and open to new and younger people. But it's okay, like if you don't. But the reality is, if you don't want to change anything you're doing, you don't want new people. So, to attract new people, we need to add, we need to change, we need to continue to develop. So what can you do? So obviously getting online, I know Houston Oasis has a great online presence, and that's fantastic. It's one of the easy things. There's a lot of groups who don't. But young people, obviously, social media, showing things of what you're doing is super important. For a lot of young people, and especially on college campuses, they've got their routine. And so for them, and Will and I were talking, for them to get off campus, because that's their safe little place. That's where their friends are. That's their routine. They know what to expect. Like, that's their world at the moment. So for them to get out, like, they really do need some advanced planning and promotion. They need to know, like, how am I going to get there? Is there parking for new people, younger couples? Like, is there childcare? Which I saw, like, you're doing good because I saw the signs as it's coming up. I'm like, yeah. Like, all really, really good stuff. And that's important for younger people with families to sort of know. And these can be like, we can have a variety of things. So it can be this, and then it can be like, hey, on next Sunday we're going to do a community service project. And maybe everyone here won't participate, and that's okay. But maybe some new people like that will be what they want to do. So you can do a variety of things. And I always look, Atheist United in Los Angeles with Evan Clark, like they just roll out new program after new program after new program. And it starts small, but every one of those has succeeded. Like their youth program and their hiking stuff and their street pirates taking down signs. Like, that's nationwide now. They just expanded all of that. So they're just trying new, people come up and like, why aren't we doing this? And they go, let's try it. So having that sort of like, and they may not work, and that's okay. But that may be a way to attract some new people and do different things. And there are people here with a variety of different things that they like. And it's okay to break off into smaller groups. And that's also a way where we can get sort of that intergenerational. And it's okay to do a fun movie night just geared towards young people. Or do something just for your older people. Like, that's all fine. And doing those sorts of things. Not everything has to be for everybody. And you then get to open yourself up to more, new ways and more people who can be interested in it. I always say active. You look at, like, our students are protesting, and they're getting out there and doing stuff on their campus, and they're doing community service projects. Those are all experiential. Like lectures and talks and what I'm doing is great, but they really want to be doing something. And again, making sure like what you're doing matters and makes a difference. And they're obviously political, and you can see by a lot of what our students are doing all across the country now. I also say appropriate, especially for younger people. We often see local groups that, hey, we're meeting at this bar, come join us. And you have to remember the majority of college students are not legal to drink. And we also find that the best way to introduce yourself to new people probably also isn't around alcohol, which lowers our inhibitions. And people, unfortunately make a mistake that, something you can't take back, and that new person's never coming back. So we always just like, go out and do something rather than go to a bar, just to start with. So you can have your bar stuff, that's all good, but we say with new people, especially with young people, just think about that. It's also about energetic leadership, and just really encouraging that participation and listening to new ideas. And again, it's really easy to be defensive and go, why are they questioning this? Like, we have always done it this way. And that's why they're going, well, why do you always do it that way? They just want to know. And again, if it's like, hey, your website, da-da-da, will you help us fix it? Hey, on TikTok, you're da-da-da, will you help us post? Great way to get someone involved. Welcome Inclusive Talk. Emily from AHA and I did a workshop together, and we sort of came up with things that we've heard before. So it's like, rather than saying like, how old are you, which puts people in a box, and sort of pulls someone out, like, hey, what'd you think of the event today? One, you get to figure out like what they liked, and that's a great way to connect with them and go, oh, well, if you like that, let's have a conversation about that. Or we're also doing this, which is similar. Come back. So again, just a way to pull them in. Are you new here? It's like, I don't think we've met. My name is. Start with that introduction. Go with them, and again, not pointing someone out as like, hey, you're not with the group. We always want to, like, pull people in and make them feel included. Do you have kids? Again, some people can be particular about that. It's always like, hey, what brought you here today? They get the chance to share what they want to share and what they're comfortable with. And again, you sort of open that door to finding out more about them and what their interests are. Are you in school? And so for some students, they're already feeling like they're a little bit younger and they're a little bit the outsider, and so it's always good, like, tell me about yourself. Again, you give them that opportunity. We have seen, oh my God, like, people run up, we need more young people like you. And they're like, I'm out of here. So great to meet you. And then we always get the one like, oh my God, let me meet you to our other young person. Let me introduce you to my friends. So, and these are just ways to think about that. I always say, like, having someone at the door to welcome new people, like, hey, great to meet you, and you can, they don't have a name tag, they're sort of looking around, like, what do I do here? Like, that's when you jump on, like, oh, let me help you do a name tag. It's right over here, and if you want some coffee, it's over here, and let me introduce you to someone. And having that system set up so people automatically feel like they have friends, we tell that to our student groups, like, have a welcome person that sort of brings people in and welcomes people in and gets them familiar with what's going on. Once you get that and they start having a conversation with someone, they're much more likely to come back. We always say, every local atheist, which we need, like, they fought the hard battle. LGBT community, I've done a bunch of things with civil rights. We had, like, the angry gay person who, like, fought. We need those people, and I totally respect that. Right, and I also say, like, if you don't know who the angry atheist is in the room, could be you. But at that door, it's always good, like, get your nice, friendly person. Think about who's going to be the one to meet new people. Social media is crucial, especially in this day and age. So Meetup, clearly a favorite of local secular groups, and it serves its purpose, and it's great. In Southern California, we had a big meeting with like all the secular groups, and they invited the youth groups, and they had an entire conversation about Meetup. And one of our students at USC, University of Southern California, was like, "What's Meetup?" They really don't use it, and we prefer platforms like you can show your group, where they can find like easy way to contact people, like you can show what you're doing. It's active sort of thing. So I'm not saying don't use it. It has its purpose, and there are lots of people who it's beneficial for. But just like keep adding. So I used to do a whole thing on social media. Like we're familiar. You guys are actually like have a good game, but obviously Facebook, not for the young people. But we definitely are on Facebook, and we keep posting stuff on there, not to reach as much young people, but to reach a larger audience as well. We do a lot of promoted posts. We pay for stuff to be promoted out there. Instagram is obviously connected. Of the sort of top media, it's where like the young people are right now, but obviously lots of image. And we do a lot of promotion, like paid promotion to reach new, and you can do it like within so many miles of Houston and set demographics and those sorts of things to reach new people as well. But you sort of have to have your game going, like showing things that you're doing and those sorts of things. And of course, there's Twitter. To me, it's the bird. It's not the X. But in this is, it's sort of the game. Are young people on as much? Probably not. But again, retweet what the national orgs are doing. Gives you sort of that great bandwidth and sort of sharing that information and those sorts of things. For younger people, and Instagram and Twitter, you'll definitely get new people who are going who want to be sort of that activism stuff. Younger people are obviously on TikTok, and this was clearly not made by a young person because the phone is this way rather than this way. So I always love that this is one of the like promo shots you can buy. I'm like, yeah, it's still the wrong way. But like, and TikTok's a whole nother world, and I'm not saying you have to be in it or play with it, but I do throw out a challenge. Like, take your phone at some point today this way, record a quick video, like just a quick video, and just like, what message would you send to young people? And it can be like, hey, I just want you to know there's a whole bunch of people to support you, or hey, I see what you guys are doing in the media, online, and I love your political activism. Like whatever those, like think of one message you want, like, hey, I love this so many of you, I just want you to know, like, I wish I was where you were, like whatever it is. So get your phone, like 30 seconds, whatever message that one is, and I want you to send it to me. I'm gonna do an email address at the end. So this is a little challenge. Like what one message would you send to young people today? And I'm gonna share those on our TikTok and on our Instagram. I'm also gonna send it to Will so he can share it on yours as well. So we're going to see how many we get. I will have my email address at the end to send that to. So quick little video, and then just bink, email it to me, and we're going to share those. So yes. The other thing is benefits. Like what benefits do we have with, for our secular groups? So this was done, U.S. churches looked at teens, and like what are their perceptions? And I think we've got a lot of area to play with on here by their own data. So if we look at like, is church tolerant of people with different views? Most young, like almost, a good number of young people in churches go, nope, we're not. That's a clear area for us to get involved. That young people say, no, you are not good about science. Clearly an area for us. So about expressing doubts, and young people know that they can't. That's why religious students come to our, like, can we have a conversation about this? I'm not sure if I agree with it, but I want to have a conversation about it. My religious community is not a safe space to do that. So, being hypocritical, expressing doubts, like that's a great place for our community. And teachings can be shallow. So, talking about like meaning with matter and making sure you're making a difference, those are things that are going to attract young people and what churches aren't providing. Because churches do a great job with developing community. And this is, you coming together on a regular basis is a great thing about developing community. We need to continue to do that because young people are looking for that. And these are areas where we can really sort of excel in that and show sort of our difference. It's all about building relationships. So when people email our groups and go, hey, come over to our thing, and I was like, they are never going to respond to you because you don't have a relationship with them. So go and support them. Who about your group is the appropriate person to do that? So how are you going to reach new people? What are you going to be doing? Who's going to be doing it? And how are you going to make them feel welcome? Are just sort of important questions. And again, I am happy to answer your questions. They can be general sort of stuff. If you want to get super specific, happy to do that as well. And then, of course, when you take your video, like today, you can just go ahead and send it to me at ssa@psychostudents.org. Cool, thank you. Oh, do we? Okay, sure. Yeah.
All right, what a fantastic talk. We will be breaking for about a 9.5-minute coffee break. But before we do so, I really wanted to give a shout out to all the volunteers who are coming together, putting up the coffee, getting everything ready, getting everything set up for us to be here today. And so as you are going out there getting your coffee, it was a human hand who put all of that together. So really appreciative of all of our volunteers who come here early to set up. I see Jennifer in the back waving some bags. I suspect she wants to take some of those. Okay, and yeah. And while you're on coffee break, treat a stranger like a friend. All right, you all enjoy your coffee break. We'll see you back soon.
Let me see your hands. I wanna see the sky. I wanna feel the wound in your side, so I'll know who you are. It's not that I doubt you.
You're the one.
You are the one.
Yeah.
But you said yourself to be one of those who would come. Let me see your feet. See the print of a nail. And see the scars on your back from the wounds where they beat you in jail.
Well, I stopped at Baylor.
I doubt you.
I went on visa hunting.
That your words
So, like, and
aren't
we
true.
told if anyone's willing to go to a college campus, we're like,
you
we'll
said
send you
many would
stuff.
come.
Yeah, and then what they do is
complain
this
to
comes
me.
right to us. And then we work with the students in
And
getting
I'm
stuff.
not gonna bend with every
so that's-
wind that blows.
We did.
Not gonna rush to run where every crowd goes.
We're better
And
about
I'm
that.
not gonna
So
be
we,
impressed
so
by
2 weeks.
every
So if we have a student contacts us and we get it up and running in 2 weeks is our golden window
I'll wait
by getting a
and trust
chapter
in the
started.
one
Year one.
died
So
for
getting past that
me.
first year, the first summer break, like we're always talking like, what do you like? Your fall meeting set already, so that we continue that pattern. They don't, and then if we get past year one, the likelihood that they'll be there year three, and then year three is that big changeover of leaders. And so we're constantly talking about who's your next president, who's your next vice president, who's taking your spot, so we're continuing on that.
How are you reaching out to the freshmen?
Yeah. So and we
Wave
send
from the
tons of
speaker.
supplies.
Check,
and
check,
always
check,
do
check.
recruitment.
It's barely there, right? You can hardly hear me in that speaker,
Yes.
right? So you could take the main volume
Yeah.
and bump that up a little bit. Check, 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 check. Okay, stop right there for a quick second. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Audio quality is how much of this signal much is down low and where's my consonants, right? Check, check. It's pretty mid-heavy on this channel, so I would say. And which one is this? Is this number one or what is it? Okay. My mid's down. Good. Check, check. Check, check, check. And I'm gonna That's your monitor. Check, 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 check. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, yeah. Now,
Wireless red one is this one.
and the other one that's not there right now is.
The wire.
That's not the one.
Oh, that's our one. Right. 1, 2, 1, 2. Gary, will you? Let me make sure he's on. You are on. Great. Okay. Talk into your mic real quick.
Test 1 2 0 0 1 1 2 3 5 8 13. Test 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Women tend to have more eyes naturally in their voices, so we help the guys a little bit with eyes. And check. Yeah, but I'm thinking, but do go out, put your ear on it, and decide, in a perfect world, what else would I do? And then come back. So you should just be possible. No, you guys have survived for years without me. That's fantastic.
Some voices are real talented. Some
Yeah.
just can't.
Well, some people won't get on the mic, you know, and
Oh, I do this all the time. I'm used to it. Yeah, go tell them. Just make sure you're close to the mic.
see now that you got those bells, and you got you some veterans up here. Now you've got room to keep your chest and balance, make things or vice versa. And actually give those lights to the speaker. I mean, the far lights.
That was the idea.
Yeah, because it's not necessary.
When I put it on the floor, then it's white. So you need to figure out how to hang it.
It's right. It'll still be right, but it won't be that bad.
So
So
after
we're
coffee
doing,
break, we're doing 2.
We are. Okay. And then one at the end as well? Or?
No, and then they'll have the questions and then it'll end.
And then it'll end.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we're-
gotcha. So we're going to do.
We're gonna do. You're gonna be there for death camp for cuties, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then we're doing life is short, and I'm 2 in C. You're probably D. Is that right?
Is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me make sure I'm actually in.
No, that's kind of.
Oh, we're fine. Well, now it's red. Is
Light
mine?
show, but I don't want to blind you guys.
Yeah, you're fine. What
Okay,
channel,
there?
what channel is
Okay.
my guitar going into? Because I don't hear it.
Is your tuner on or?
No, it's not a little bit now, I guess.